Okay, now I'm recording, I think. Yeah. Hey, what's up? Well, whatever. Yeah, there's not gonna be an intro here. I'm here with Brian, and yeah, Brian did a pretty good job with um Najee and Ramsey. You were pretty high in. Do you remember where you had him in the like before the year?
Ramsey, I think I had top, I think 20, 19 or 20.
Hmm.
I think I definitely had him in that like one and done group because we were talking about that last summer. I remember how because we looked it up. It's 20 is the record. So I've been trying not to put more than 20 guys in as one and dones every year. Although this year it's probably gonna be like 24, 25. But like so I think I had him. I don't think I had Najee in that group, but I definitely had him like top 35. I thought he was good.
Hmm.
The funny thing is, I think I'm lower on them both now than I was. Maybe not Najee.
Yeah,
Definitely lower on Jahmius now, because I thought he'd be like more of a ball handler, and also I thought he was a better athlete than he turned out to be. He's still a good athlete, but
yeah. We'll talk about all that right now, but I'm just wondering. Let's start. Yeah, and I want to say what's it called? Yeah, like cut the. No, not that you're doing that right now, but I know people. Nobody likes to fucking sound like a jackass. But at the same time, be straightforward. Like if you're right about something, this is the time and place to take your credit here. So don't be like, oh, I
I
was.
feel more right about Vassell though, but he doesn't count because he had college
Well,
game
yeah,
experience.
yeah. Well, we could talk about Vassell too if you want, but
I
yeah,
mean, he was just like I probably only saw him play like I don't know. He didn't play that much, but I probably only saw him like 5 times last season. But his
yeah,
numbers were so wild, like his fucking stock numbers in
yeah.
such a small amount of time. Or like he's probably good. I think I had him top 30 because I was like, I bet he'll shoot better. There's nothing wrong with his shot, and he did. So I feel good about that. Yeah, like Ramsey, I actually feel like I kind of missed on because I really thought he was gonna be like. Remember when Dort was really good for like 3 weeks?
Yeah.
I thought he was that player. I thought he was the player that we thought Dort was, and I don't think he's that now.
That's
Like
an interesting
his
compare.
defense is fine. I thought his defense was better than it was too.
Hmm. Wait,
Like
wait. Say that again. You think his defense is better than what you thought it was, or?
no, it's not. It's worse than what I thought it was.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know. I'm not like. I think his defense is about where I thought it was. I don't know. I'm not like totally out on his defense. What's it called? I know some people are really.
No, it's
What?
not bad.
Say that again.
It's not bad at defense.
Hmm.
He's just he didn't stand out at all at Texas Tech, which I mean it's Texas Tech, but like I think Kyler was a better defender than him and McCullough for sure, and probably I don't know. TJ Shannon's okay too.
McCauley, yeah. I don't think Shannon was. I mean, I
No,
guess
yeah,
maybe
I mean
because
I'd
of
say Shannon.
size, like the size advantage thing kind of helps, I guess. But I think overall Ramsey was like, if you're going like with positional adjustment, I think Ramsey was better. Um,
I'm fine with that.
yeah. I mean, he still had pretty good stocks. I think that's kind of part of the system for Tuck,
Mm-hmm.
is you're gonna get that unless you're just like completely like David Moretti or somebody like that who's not very physically capable. But for Ramsey, I thought he was like considering he just turned 19 in June. I thought he was decent. Definitely, playing under Beard helped hide some of his maybe weaknesses and stuff like that. But also just considering how old he was, I think he was decent. I definitely I'm not like I'm not Yoda. I'm not saying he's the best defender in the class or anything like that. But I thought he was decent. I didn't think he was completely horrible.
Yeah, I think the thing that I kind of missed on with him a little bit was that I when I because I watched I think 3 games of his before last year, and I thought he was like an amazing finisher, and
Mm,
he turned out to not be an amazing finisher. I think
yeah.
that's the biggest problem that I
Yeah,
have with him
yeah. I
because
feel
he was like one of the worst 6'4" taller guys in my whole database that I looked at of just like pure at the rim numbers. Let me look that up actually.
And if you look at his numbers, besides those first like whatever 9, 10 games where they played like
Nobody's.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
like
250th and worse teams. Uh,
mm,
Outside of those games, his numbers get really worse. And when you watch, I watched a couple of those games, and it was like a lot of transition breakaway type stuff and stuff like that, or like
yeah,
just horrible defense when they just like completely opened up. What is it called? Moses splits the Red Sea and all that. Yeah, like
yeah.
just the paint opens up for him for like a lay-in. But yeah, other than that, I felt like he kind of struggled in the half court. Actually,
Yeah,
been watching. Well, yeah, for Najee, I watched some Arizona too. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Josh Green's struggles in the half court as well.
mm, but Josh Green has the advantage of being a better athlete.
Yeah, Josh
Um,
Green is better in a lot of different ways,
yeah,
but just in that particular regard, like finishing in a half court, I think they have kind of reminiscent of each other. I couldn't tell you exactly why off the top of my head, but just my instincts tell me.
timing maybe. It's just
Yeah,
the thing with Jahmius is really concerning. He played less games than some guys, but his frequency, like less than 30% of his shots are at the rim, and he was assisted on almost half of them. That's not good. Like he's not good at getting to the rim on his own.
yeah.
52.5%, which is the same as Lauren Christian Jackson had, and Lauren Jackson is 5.7,
5'8",
5.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
something like
and he
that.
had less than 2% of his shots assisted, which is crazy.
Right.
Um, yeah, like the shot around the same as Christian Doolittle, and worse than Xavier Johnson. You don't want to be worse than Xavier Johnson
Yeah.
at finishing.
Doolittle is a
That's a
pretty
that's a
bad
bad sign.
finisher too. That's another guy. That's a good.
Yeah, he's not a good finisher.
Yeah.
Mac McClung is around here. Muscovy, McKinley Wright, like those guys are not power guards.
Yeah, yeah, they're not. Yeah, he's really bad off 1 foot. Ramsey is like he's
Mm,
really he can't. I don't think he could even like almost not do it. Like it's like I don't know. I've seen him do jump off 1 foot
yeah,
before, but it's like it feels like super unnatural to him. I guess I don't know. I would. That's actually a good question. If anybody ever gets the chance to interview Ramsey, somebody should ask him about that. Like in a nice way, I guess. But yeah,
yeah. Like
let's rewind a
here's
little bit.
just real quick.
Go ahead.
Deshaun Highland is ahead of him, and so is Javon Jackson. Those guys are
Yeah,
probably both 40 pounds lighter than Jahmius Ramsey.
yeah.
I
Uh,
love Bones too. I think Bones will be good, at least in college.
um, what's it called with Ramsey? Oh yeah. So where did you watch him prior? Did you watch AU games?
I think it was AAU games. I'm forgetting now because I was in that point. I'm really bad with remembering teams in high school too, especially the AAU teams and UABL teams.
Hmm.
But I watched at least part of 3 games. I think 2 of them were AAU, and I remember the one was the one he had like 38 in, and he looked really good. And I'm forgetting who they played. I should have looked this up before we did this.
Yeah,
But
sure.
he was I can't remember, but he looked really good. Like he looked really really like just powerful. That was the thing I think I missed on a little bit with him. He's still not like he's gonna get drafted. He's a decent prospect. He's not bad.
Yeah, I don't
He's a
hate
good
Ramsey. Yeah, but I'm just
he's a good shooter. Like he's going to probably shoot pretty well.
That's kind of been the thing overall. Is like I'd say my defensive evaluation is about where I thought it'd be. On offense, his athleticism and like his ability to get to the rim, we just talked about and stuff like that, is worse than I thought it'd be. But
Mhm.
his shooting is better than I thought it'd be, and considerably better than I thought it'd be. And then I'd say like some of his even passing is a bit better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, he had the ball a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think
That's
what he's good at is he could pass on the move, which you can't say for a lot of freshmen. Period. Like, I mean, there is a
yeah.
decent amount of like smaller maybe guards that are able to do that, but like at 6'4" with a good body, strong. Maybe again he's not the greatest finisher, but still he has some physical talents and stuff like that to be the ability to drive and read the play as you're moving in the instance of the moment. Find and guy on the perimeter or dump it off to the dunker spot with a wraparound or something like that is just yeah, difficult for a lot of freshmen, younger
He's a
players.
he's a very different player, but I think my eval was kind of like how I thought Cam was I had Cam number 2 Reddish coming into a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and he was worse than I thought, so I really really reacted badly, and I moved him down to like 50 at one point, just out of like disappointment. I think I did the same thing with Ramsey, where I had him like I definitely had him like late 40s at one point. I moved him back into like the 30. I think he's like in that group from like 25 to 45, that huge group. Like he's probably gonna get drafted in the late first. I don't have a problem with that. But like Naji's kind of the opposite, where like I remember when Najee started off shooting like 80% from the field, we were all like, oh yeah, it's gonna fall off, and then it didn't really. Like it did, but he still just continued finishing extremely well for a guy his like weight.
Yeah.
He the big thing with him that I remember talking about you with this was that I noticed, even just watching a highlight package, he's great balance and like coordination for his size. And I was like, that guy's probably going to be good. He didn't shoot like I thought he was going to, but how many freshman bigs shoot like do you think they're going to?
Wait, but real quick with Ramsey, just to finish up,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
called? What do you think? Why do you think you were able to be higher on him coming into the season other than other people? I mean, I don't expect you to remember everybody else's evaluations, but just do you think you were just higher in athleticism and then
Yeah, and strength. He looked
strength?
really strong. That was the thing.
That's a good one.
And we're finding that more and more. I think strength is like the thing that separates a lot of prospects from that same if they're all in the same mid-level area.
Interesting.
As like who am I thinking of? Well, that was what we thought with Cole Anthony. It
Right.
was like
Yeah.
he's so strong for that kind of guard. He still could be. I mean, Cole could still be a very good NBA player. We have no idea. He's kind of had a lost year.
Yeah. Yeah. He's had him.
If he tore his meniscus in that Michigan game, that's what 3.5 games of real evaluation.
Right.
It's
Right.
like that's not. And he was fine. He wasn't bad in those games. He just
Yeah.
he too. I think he was assisted on like let me look it up. One of the
Cole.
lowest numbers of
Oh yeah, I'm
yeah
sure.
8% of his attempts at the rim were assisted. And he still shot over 53%. That's not bad. That's
Yeah, and I mean the paint every time there was like five guys inside the paint every time he fucking drove.
yeah. So
Makes
I
sense.
mean I'm not out on Cole at all. I don't know if I have him top 5 anymore, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
could be a top 5 player in the. He could have top 5 value.
I think he could be the best
defensively.
player in this class for all we
Yeah,
know.
we thought
But
that coming out of high school. So I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's definitely talent there still. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I've just worry about decision making, but I don't want to turn this into a Cole Anthony podcast.
there's enough of those.
No, maybe we could talk about Cole, but I do want to talk about Ramsey and Najee. Let's get into Najee a little bit. Let me see real quick if I have anything about Ramsey that I still want to ask. But first I'll let you get, what's it called with Najee. So where did you watch Najee? What was the context you
On
watched?
YouTube, these are all on YouTube too, because I
Hello, Brian. I think I lost you, my guy. Can you hear me, Brian? Fuck.
you there.
Yo. Okay, I can hear.
My controller died. I'm stupid.
Oh, it's alright. It's alright.
No, Najee, I watched. God, there was a bunch of his high school. There was at least 4 or 5 of his high school games on YouTube that I watched, and God, I can't even remember who they were playing again. I'm so bad at that. I couldn't tell you who I was watching Matthew Cleveland play against like last week. Uh, um, no, but yeah, I watched. I was higher on him. I think coming in, I really thought he was going to shoot like pull-ups, which he could, but he obviously didn't do that as a freshman. But it's part of like college coaches don't really like to play. Like Karl Anthony Towns didn't do that, despite being the best shooting big of all time, probably. So yeah, no, I really liked Nnaji was his like balance and coordination and like ability to kind of like Okongwu, really just like get up really quickly and like finish over people, finish around people. I thought his handle was pretty good. Like I was pretty sure he was going to be a really good offensive center, and then he turned out to be okay at defense too. So like I like Nnaji a lot. I have him top 30. I think he's good.
Interesting.
And then yeah, we wouldn't like. There's been a big debate on if he's actually good at defense pretty much all year, but I think he moves well. So that's sort of if he goes to the right team. Like I'm not saying Miami would draft him, like Miami or San Antonio or somebody who has like a real system. He could probably be perfectly fine NBA center defensively.
Wait, but real quick, did you watch him in high school? You said or AU or both? You said
It was mostly high school.
mostly high
I think
school.
it was 4 high school games.
Okay. What's it called? Do you feel like he's grown since high school? Because
Maybe a little. Maybe a little.
I definitely feel like he's grown since AU, but maybe that happened during his high school senior season. Because I didn't really watch him a lot as a high school senior because I honestly thought he was trash when I watched him in AU. But yeah, I'm wondering maybe some of the stuff with the strength stuff and ability to just be so.
His frame has grown for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
He's bigger.
But you were saying like at the high school level, what you liked was his ability to kind of finish inside and get up quickly. I think it's not that I misevaluated that so much, but I probably didn't give it enough weight. And maybe some of his ability, like touch and stuff. Like I think there was a point last year where I just kind of started to look at bigs and just like if they're not good on defense, I was automatically out on them. But like looking
Yeah.
back, that was probably not the right attitude because you have guys like I don't know Olenek or Domantas Sabonis or even like a I don't know, like a Cody Zeller who was a little bit better on defense, but still not a great defender overall. But because they have these interior offensive skills, have able become pretty
Mhm.
capable NBA players. Relatively, we're not talking about superstars, but
I like Zeller a lot, so yeah, I agree with that. I think Zeller's good.
yeah.
Um, maybe a guy like Isaiah Jackson's kind of like that this year. A guy I think people are higher on him.
Well,
That
Jackson
kind of
is
guy.
much better, I think, defensively, but
Yeah,
he's
but
not as
I,
strong as Najee.
but I think he's gonna have the same problems in the NBA because he's like 210 maybe. Like
Yeah,
he's not gonna overpower anyone at the rim in the NBA on defense. So, but he's kind of a similar he moves real well. Like I really like how he moves.
that's true. Yeah, he does move well. Is that so? Is that what you liked about Najee? The coordination and kind of balance you talked about that, but
Coordination, yeah, balance. That's what I kept thinking when I was watching was that he would catch, he would get well, he didn't get that many offensive rebounds, but he would catch like bad lob passes and keep his feet under him and not bring the ball down and just kind of don't. Okongwu is like the master of that this year. But he's like a different level entirely.
what do you think of Najee's shooting? Like, not what you thought of it a year ago, but now, what do you think? Like, do you worry about his? Because I kind of think about his mechanics and how they don't really translate to deeper range. But then on the other hand,
No, but I think he'll probably shoot stance. Like if he's open on the perimeter, he'll probably shoot a few. He's like what 70, 75, 76 free throws. So
yeah, 76% free throw shooter, so which is quite good for a guy his size and everything as a freshman.
yeah, I think I'm kind of hoping he goes. Like I said, I hope he goes to. San Antonio has 2 picks. If somehow he got to their second pick, I think he'd be terrific for them.
Interesting.
Just a guy who kind of developed. Maybe don't play him too much next year, but he just kind of he won't get there though because it's like they're like mid like 45, I think.
Do you think he's more of an NBA five, or do you think? Well, I mean, you probably do think he's more of an NBA five, but do you think teams are gonna try to play him at the four too much?
Maybe like what is Rashawn Holmes? Is he a 5? Now I think he is, but was he like 2 years ago? Maybe not. Maybe like that.
Okay, okay.
Just like yeah, he just kind of big. I don't know.
I do like Najee's strength and physicality around the rim a lot,
That
uh,
surprised me a little bit too. Yeah,
and how
that's
like
why he was doing so well those first like 5 or 6 games when they were playing. Nobody state.
yeah,
He was just shoving people around.
yeah, and he has a good craft around the rim too for a big man. Like he'll time his releases and he'll like change the position of his release and stuff like that. Like the
Mm.
yeah angle to get a better angle for the
He
finishes.
has, yeah. If he's a guy like they're different players, but I think like I still like I don't know I still like Paul Reed, but I think if Paul Reed had more of that, I'd be more in on him as like a definite top 25 guy.
Yeah, I mean, Najee's free throw rate is like three times Paul Reed's.
Because Paul doesn't like getting hit.
Yeah,
He likes
Paul.
being the one who hits people. Like,
Yeah.
he's not weak or soft. He just doesn't like. He's one of the. If he gets
Um,
bumped when he's going into a shot, he just kind of flings it. I noticed him do that a lot, and that's why they were so bad in Big East because everyone on the everyone on every other team knew that he was the only guy who could really score, unless Romeo caught fire or Charlie Moore stopped taking dumb shots, which will never happen. That's why I'm happy they got my guy Brian Patrick this year because he will shoot.
who?
We know that. They got Brian Patrick transferred from PFW to DePaul.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he's the guy. He shot like a 65.
I know they got Cavarcier Macaulay from Lincoln. It's like one of the top Division two programs, and that dude could shoot the crap out of it. Also, he's like a pretty like one of the best shot makers in Division two last year. Not much else, but he could make shots.
They're going to build around Romeo, and they're going to hope that he does a little more with the ball in his hands. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was Paul Reed's problem, and like Nnaji does not like if you give Nnaji the opening, he will shoot a floater, shoot a little hook shot, a little face up jumper, or he'll just bowl in and score. Like he's good. He's really good at that, and that. Like yeah, you mentioned like Cody Zeller. Cody Zeller is like one of the best floater
Yeah.
shooters in the NBA, and Nnaji's a much better athlete than Cody Zeller. So like
Interesting
You
fact:
can
Najee took only one runner the entire season this year, actually, but he did take a lot of like shorter range jump
little like
shots.
little hop, like little yeah, like
Yeah,
little half hooks and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah, and
I kind of
hooks.
consider those the same shot, like functionally.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, I'm just giving a random fact, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Yes. He shot only 46.5 effective field goal percentage in spot up attempts, whether spot up no dribble jumper or pick and pop no dribble jumper. But that the reason for that is that's not so good for a 6.5 effective field goal percentage. But it's because a lot of those shots were long twos as opposed to threes. And
Mm.
if you go by field goal percentage instead of points per possession, he goes from 42nd percentile to 81st percentile among all players on jump shots.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that part of that is because he does take shorter range jump shots, but jump shots. Once you get out past like 6, 7 feet, the percentage difference is now like huge between
No.
an 8 foot jumper and a 28 foot jumper. It's there is a difference, of course, there, but it's not like 150% like the difference between a two and a three, obviously. Um,
We
what was I going to say? But yeah, what do you think, real quick, on offense with him as a finisher? Do you think he's like a reliable, like what is it called, the vertical spacing or whatever it's called? You know what I'm talking
not
about? Like,
not so much as I think you would like, not like Jackson Hayes, obviously.
yeah,
Like I think that is kind of one of the weird things about Nnaji. A guy with that body type who does have like he will dunk the shit out of the ball if he gets it. But like you think that those guys would be like way above the rim guys. He's kind of in that in between, like um okay, not like Rashawn Holmes. Rashawn Holmes is, or like Christian Wood. Those guys fucking finish dunks. Um I'm trying to think of another like skinny NBA big who kind of scores on that
do you think
intermediate
Najee
stuff
is
a lot.
skinny? Because I think he's pretty like filled.
Skinny, or like he's built more than he was.
The guy that
Maybe it's just his
I
hair.
thought of with Najee the first time I watched him play at Arizona in that jersey is Jordan Hill. That's the first
Yeah,
guy that came to my mind.
Najee's less. I guess Najee's less skinny than he is. Kind of. He looks longer than he is. I guess is what I'm getting at. Because he's like a 7'2" wingspan, right? Like he's a little
Yeah, I
below.
don't think his arms are that long. Do you think he's a 7 footer in shoes, or do you think he's 6'11" as he's
I
listed?
think he's 6'11".
Okay, okay.
Just looking at him next to like Okongwu and next to a lot of the other. He was taller than those guys, but
Yeah. Do you think? Well, yeah. Let's go to the defense.
I still think he's probably a little skinny for a full time five. He's not going to be overpowering, like even
Yeah.
like Biombo at the rim or anything like that. Like he's going to get pushed around by some guys, but not enough to make it like a, not like Bull is, obviously.
I like that when he has like Jaden McDaniels or Chandler Lawson on him, he sees that those guys are in front of him and he'll like push him around and like get
Yeah,
position against those types. Um, do you think he could defend like Carl Towns or Joel Embiid in the post 1-on-1? I
yeah. I
mean,
don't.
no,
I
like
mean,
not shut them down for
like
having.
nobody defends Embiid one, but yeah, like I don't think so.
Yeah,
Not in the way that like even like Stewart would probably be better at that, even though he's a
yeah,
worse player and worse at defense. But like that's more what I was saying. Like he's not Isaiah Stewart. He's not just like ball of muscle, or
right.
like Tillman, or
Yeah, I
like
don't remember this, but I have here in my notes that Isaiah Stewart apparently bullied him in at least one of their games, if not both.
he bullied everybody. He bullied Okongwu. Like there was that one Washington game where he pushed Okongwu around like a child. Like Okongwu was pretty strong. I think we all agree with that. But that's the reason he'll probably get drafted. Even though I don't think he shouldn't. I don't think he
Yeah,
should.
coaches love Stewart because he plays so hard, And,
He does play extremely. Like I'm not gonna no disrespect to the guy. He plays his ass off. But he's
yeah,
just not. He doesn't have the skill set I think a modern big should, and he's not big enough to just like it. Azubuike could work better because he's at least huge.
yeah, he's just like enormous. Yeah. Um, I think Azabuki. That's a. Do you think Azabuki could guard Embiid?
Maybe
Um,
I'd give him as good a shot as any rookie coming in.
yeah. But what was I going to say? Yeah, what I don't like about a guy like Stewart relative to like Najee is he's not so agile. Like Najee or even like Vernon Carey could kind of play facing up a little bit, whereas with Stewart, I don't really see that unless he's just like facing up to take a jumper, but like attacking off the dribble facing up, I don't really see that with Stewart.
Uh, yeah, Vernon has really good feet.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Carry is like what is the word?
Nimble.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, more nimble than
Yeah,
Stewart.
he play. It's funny that he plays like a defensive tackle because that's what his dad was.
Right,
But
right.
he doesn't. He's not that. He doesn't play that physically. He just has the body of like a defensive tackle and kind of moves around like light on his feet.
Yeah, he's strong, but he's not as physical as like Stewart, or even you could say Najee in some cases.
I would say Najee's more physical. Yeah,
Yeah, not maybe Carey's stronger, but Najee is more physical. Yeah.
he doesn't like. He wants to shoot. That's Carey's got the problem we thought DeAndre Ayton had, and then he got over it. He wants to take face-ups all the time.
Do you think? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Ayton kind of got over that. He still takes them, but he's improved in a lot of other ways.
Do you think Najee is a better shooter than Ayton? Shooting prospect? Not right now.
I mean, considering how reticent Ayton is to actually shoot, then yeah, I'll say yeah. Ayton doesn't want to shoot threes. He's doing it more, but he doesn't like to.
What about Daniel Aturo, Jalen Smith, Paul Reed? Do you think, or like Achiuwa even? Do you think Najee is better shooter than those guys?
He's got better shot selection than Precious for sure. Precious shouldn't shoot. I don't think he's bad at it, but I'm hoping he goes to a team that just tells him to not shoot jumpers at all. Fine him or something.
Yeah,
and then Paul's release is too weird. I still like I like him a lot, but he's not going to be a high level shooter. I say Jalen's probably better, ideally. He's kind of that's actually that's an interesting comp because they kind of play, in some ways they play really similarly because Jalen was the one guy in the Big Ten who ever really got the better of Tillman because he just run at it. He would just hit him as hard as he could, and he was tall. He was taller. I think he was the only guy in the entire Big Ten true shooting against Michigan State than he did against other teams. Some of them were Garza's is really funny. Garza was a 66 true shooting against every other Big Ten team, and against Michigan State it was 48 because he would just try and back Tillman down, and he couldn't move him, and he would shoot a bad fade. Teskey was miserable against Michigan State because he couldn't do anything. Tillman beat the shit out of him. Aturu I don't know. I don't believe he's going to be good at anything. I don't have any faith in him at all. He's so small. For a guy who plays the way he does, he doesn't look that big and he doesn't play that big. He doesn't really He's a bump slayer. That's the best way to describe Aturu. He did really, really well against bad teams. He kicked the shit out of him, but then he didn't do much against the really good teams, and he's just not big enough. Trace Jackson Davis isn't that big either, but Trace is a super athlete. Aturu's not fucking dunking on people or getting out on the break and crossing people over like Trace did.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Aturu at all, personally.
Do you think
he's the most obvious bust in the top in the first round? He's going to get taken in the first round.
Do you think Najee is a better shooter? So do you think he's a better shooter than all those guys besides maybe Jalen Smith?
Yeah.
As a prospect, not necessarily as a player right now. What's it called?
Just because I believe he'll. I think most players can learn how to shoot spot ups, and I think he will. He'll shoot some spot ups.
And Okongwu and Stewart, you think Najee and Najee is better than those guys as a shooter?
Maybe not Carey.
Interesting. I think Carey has the worst free throw percentage out of those four guys.
He does.
But yeah, he's more nimble, as you said, more fluid.
I dislike Wiseman in a lot of ways, but he'll shoot jumpers, and he'll probably be okay at it.
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah, do you think Wiseman is a better shooter than Najee? Better shooting prospect than Najee?
I would say about the same.
About the same. Interesting.
So
you're pretty high on Wiseman's shooting. Because I think he's worse than probably all those guys, except I'd probably say Okongwu is I would have the lowest out of those four guys, and I would have Wiseman and Okongwu about the same. Just the shooting prospects purely.
I think Wiseman's shot selection is so bad that it definitely hurts him.
Okay.
Him taking fadeaways with a 6'2" guy on him like he did.
That's true. His shot versatility is probably better than than Stewart and Okongwu and even Najee.
If we're talking about shot versatility, the best big in this class is obviously Pokusevski, but that's an entirely different conversation.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about or I could say like Petrushev is probably a better shooting prospect than most of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Petrusev's not really a prospect though.
Well, yeah, it depends.
What about Freddie Gillespie? I'm kidding. He shot more jumpers. He shot some jumpers. He may shoot some.
Yeah, he has good runners. He's good at runners.
Yeah. Wetzel may shoot some. When he's playing in the ACB in 3 years. We love Yanni.
Do you think Nnaji is like a legitimate switch big? I think some people have brought that up before, that they're really high on his ability to switch and guard smaller players. I'm not quite as high on that, but I mean, I think he's capable of containing and like hard hedging and traps.
I think I think what I'm gonna do next, I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks, is probably just go watch just go back over like the top 25, 30 guys that I haven't really thought about much in the last couple months. I just rewatch them and I'm gonna watch him. I'm gonna watch all his defensive possessions that I can find and just kind of, because I'm not really sure. Sometimes he looks great and sometimes he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. And I mean, he's a freshman playing in a major conference.
What did you think of his defense coming into the year?
I thought it was fine.
Interesting. So
I didn't have like a strong opinion on if he was going to be. I thought he was going to get pushed around a lot, and he didn't. He was more physical than I expected. So
that's true. I did think coming out of high school, I didn't realize how physical he was. That's a good point. I didn't. Now that I think back on it, I kind of thought he was kind of soft, but that's far from the truth. Yeah, I thought his rim protection was really bad this year, and I thought that coming into the season as well. I mean, in the past, the pack line style that Arizona plays has kind of obfuscated guys' ability to protect the rim, like we see with Aidan this year, for example. But then in other cases, like Warren Markkanen, for example, that's kind of stood the test of time that they're not very good rim protectors. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm definitely not very high on his like help side instincts, and there's a lot of plays where he'll just like stand by and watch a guy get a layup and not leave his man because he wants to make sure he could get the rebound or whatever if the guy does miss.
I don't want to I want to be careful not deifying Tillman, but you watch Tillman and he never does that.
Yeah,
that's like the gold standard of this year, at least for this class. Of just Tillman is never just standing around watching a play happen if he has anything to say about it.
Right. That's a good point. Yes, that's true.
And Okongwu too, although Okongwu, sometimes their defense is weird.
So
USC was weird to watch.
My bad. My parents yelling at my dog, I think. Sorry. Anyway, what's it called? I think Okongwu was probably the best defensive prospect in the class.
Depending on what. I mean, I could make an argument for Vassell.
Huh, interesting. You think Vassell, like in the vacuum though, like, not considered...
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that bigs are always more valuable, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess from a positional standpoint, maybe you could then start to think about Vassell, or even like Poku maybe.
Maybe.
Just at least as far as the upside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the top level is definitely Okongwu, and then Tillman's going to be a little bit below because he does get beat. He's not perfect ISO.
Yeah, he's a little, he's not super athletic. He's a bit undersized.
You can get above Tillman pretty easily, but
yeah.
When you do, he's going to catch you and slam you. I'm kidding. He'd be the one guy I could see like straight up catching somebody in a bear hug. Like, God, he's such a ridiculous player. So weird. Yeah, definitely a combo. Number one. I mean, I'm not. You don't have to sell me on that. I'm a big fan. I think everybody is at this point. Even JP likes him.
Yeah, like a few people have him like towards the end of the lotto. I'd probably be on the higher side for Okongwu. I think I have him maybe third. Probably
I'm 4 right now, but I could go third.
Yeah, like something like that. Yeah.
My top five is locked in. I know it's going to be LaMelo, Killian, Okongwu, Poku, and then Edwards. I'm not going to lower Edwards at 5, even though there's a lot of questions.
What about Denny?
Denny is probably locked in at 6 too. Yeah. I don't see any of those guys moving. Maybe Vassell gets in there too, but I think that's my top group.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd have those guys pretty much, but without Poku and Vassell. But that's because I haven't gone over Poku and Vassell in depth yet. But once I do, those are the two guys that have the best chance to still move into my top five.
And like we said, Cole, he could easily be there. So he's going to be the next area. Same with Maxey. Maxey could also be. He's another guy he could have the best value in this class. Like,
I still like Haliburton. I still have Haliburton like 6. Probably.
I still love him. I just don't think he's going to be the best player in the class.
Well, yeah, he's definitely not going to.
And like I've said before, taking him top 5, that puts the burden of him being like a lead guard, and he's just not going to be that.
No, he probably won't be like your primary initiator, but
yeah, he's just not going to. I don't think he's going to be that in the NBA. He's not going to be getting to the rim all the time. He's not going to be getting into the paint and like drawing defense and drawing fouls. He's just not what he does. It's not how he plays.
Yeah, but I also don't think if you take a guy top 5 that necessarily like a guard top 5 that doesn't necessarily force
fans put that burden on
them. I understand, yeah.
And bad teams do. Like I'm really scared of the Knicks taking him because they think he probably would be like a. They thought the same with Ntilikina. It's like he's not.
Like Lonzo to the Lakers also. Remember when?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And I for him, like I think the best fit, obviously Chicago. No. Like if Charlotte took him, I'd be happy with that because like they're not going to give him the ball and go and give him like 50 possessions a game as pick market because they have Rozier and they have Devontae. Like they don't need that. So that's where I want Hallie to go.
What do you think of Ramsey's position? Do you think he's a point guard or do you think he's more of a?
I think he's 2.
You think he's a point guard?
I think he's an off guard more than anything.
Oh, you think he's?
I think the rim stuff really, the rim stuff really supports that because he's not getting into the paint on his own. He's not getting to the rim on his own. Then you're not a point guard. I don't really care. That's kind of my personal definition of it at this point. Like that's Dotson's entire appeal is that he gets into the paint whenever he wants and is able to draw people.
Right.
But like, I don't think Ramsey does that, but he can handle the ball some. I mean, we're at the point now where because Beal is a 2 guard, but he runs the offense.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think maybe Ramsey's best thing is to play him next to a tall initiator and kind of let him guard point guards and
maybe, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely. I think you could play him as like a 3rd guard against some teams because some teams play 3 guards. Like Derek White's technically been the small forward in a lot of lineups for the Spurs this year. I mean, he's not a small forward, but he's been the 3rd guard because they played him with like Forbes and Bellinelli or Forbes and Patty Mills a lot. So he'd be the 3rd guard. He'd be the small forward in that lineup. Or with DeJounte, but DeJounte doesn't really count. He's not really a normal guard.
A lot of teams I feel like I don't super watch a lot of NBA, but from what I've watched a little bit, I've noticed that teams start to going like to more like 2-point guard lineups, like with Schroeder and Chris Paul, or like the Spurs lineup with Patty Mills and Brent Forbes even together at times, stuff like that.
The Thunder have had a 3-guard lineup. That's like their closing lineup.
Yeah, with Shea. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, those are like seem to be the lineups that do the best against like more 5-out type lineups, like the Mavs or the Rockets, teams that really shoot threes from all positions. You kind of just go even smaller and even faster and force them to defend because they may have the shooting, but they don't really have amazing defenders.
It's the University of Houston strategy.
Yeah.
They play like 4-point guards. Jesus. They're gonna be fun this year if it happens. It sounds like it will.
Yeah, that team, they might play 5-point guards. Like I was looking at their lineup. I like Javon Roberts. He was the redshirt freshman this year. He's like a 6'7" big.
Cam Tyson's gonna be there. I like him.
Yeah.
He could shoot.
Yeah, Tyson could shoot the crap out of it. What's his name? Giroux, Caleb Mills.
Mills is great.
Yeah.
He's fun. Mills is one of the most fun guys.
Grimes. And then
Teron Mark is coming there. Teron Mark's not bad.
Oh yeah, and Marcus is pretty solid, like freshman. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now what I was going to say. Oh yeah, so if I had to put a position on Rams, I'd say shooting guard. If you had to like lock him in as a position, that's what I would say.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
But
Najee, you would say like a combo big.
yeah, I'd probably say center just because I think. But yeah, like power forward, like forward center. That's yeah FC. But I think he's gonna be usable at the year spot. Like he moves pretty well on the perimeter, and if like Zach Collins can play power forward and
Right.
not get played off the floor immediately, then he could do it.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely against certain lineups, some teams like to go big, especially starting units. A lot of teams will go bigger.
That just makes me sad that Big East Wanagan had to come around now and not in like 2004. he would have stuck in the NBA in 2004. You can't convince me he wouldn't.
Probably. Kenneth Farid had a run.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say?
Dewan Blair had a run.
Yeah. Um, do you think where do you, yeah, where would you have Najee right now?
I think I had him 29, 27, something like that.
Yeah,
And
around, yeah.
I think we've talked about it before. Like there's that first group, and then I think there's like 12 guys, probably ending with Riller, that I have as like lottery guys, and then it's kind of like 30 players. It's like 30, 35 players of just like you can kind of have in any order. I wouldn't be mad at you.
Gotcha.
Like because some people have Saddiq at like 19 or 20, and like I don't know if I agree with that, but he can shoot and he's tall, so like maybe
Yeah.
he could end up being really good next year. I don't know. And so I kind of have, I think for me, everyone from like 19, which I think is Desmond Bane, to like 43 or 44 is kind of the same.
Fair.
I think 44, no, Jahmius is a little higher than that. I forget who my 44 guy is, but like that whole group to me is kind of like you could take any of those guys in the 20s and I wouldn't think I wouldn't have any problem with it.
Is Ramsey in that
Wiseman.
group? You said.
I have Wiseman. Ramsey's in there. Yeah, Ramsey's in there.
Okay, okay, okay. Go ahead. What's it?
Wiseman was too. That's why I have Wiseman.
Oh, you have
He's gonna
Wiseman.
go higher than that, but I'm not gonna.
So you have Wiseman in the 20s. In the 20s.
In that group, yeah, like 20 to 45 group. Yeah, I think he is in the 20s.
Right. Yeah.
He's right around where Tyler Bey is for me.
Interesting.
Which I think I put them together because it's funny to imagine them both playing center in the NBA.
What makes you so low on Wiseman, or is it just the stuff people have kind of already?
It's the same stuff, yeah. But it's at a certain point he is 7'1" and like his athleticism is so overblown, but he's not a bad athlete. Like I do think he moves
well.
like a
yeah,
he moves like a boat laterally. Like he does run hard and he like gets up the floor pretty well for a guy that size. He's just not like fluid in space and like moves laterally well, but yeah, I mean I'm not like out on Wiseman. I just don't I don't want him in the top 5. I'm good.
Yeah. But yeah, with that said, I think I'm trying to think. I think we covered about all I wanted to talk about in broad with Ramsey and Najee. Is there anything else that you could maybe want to touch on with those guys in particular, as far as like stuff you may have learned over the year philosophically, not as much just about them in particular, but more from a philosophical approach?
I think I'm gonna start valuing strength more and more. That's like I didn't probably a year ago. I probably wouldn't have thought much of Day'Ron Sharpe, but like just because he was like the 4th guy on a team that I don't know, he didn't stand out as much to me, just like watching the games. But if you rewatch him, and I don't think he's a one-and-done guy for sure, but I think he's so fucking big. Like his body is so big that he's probably, if he could do other things, he's probably gonna be a pretty good college player. I'm a little worried about how he's gonna fit with that team that has 9 centers or whatever on them. But,
yeah,
that's for Roy to figure out.
Yeah.
Because I keep forgetting that Baycott's still there, and like he's a center.
You should watch Sharpe on AU. He actually has some skill. He could like handle.
I've seen some clips. I'm gonna maybe check him out too.
I don't really buy his shooting right now. Maybe he could improve, but he could like handle for a guy like that type of player. He can handle and pass a little bit. He reminds me of kind of a poor man's Wendell Carter when you watch him
in
AU.
Wendell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have been low on Wendell if I had watched a lot of high school tape at that point, and then I would have felt like an idiot 5 games into his Duke career. I was like, oh no, this guy's great.
Right.
This
Yeah.
guy's
Yeah. No, that's true.
destroying the ACC.
That's that's true. Yeah. I mean, I was pretty high coming into the year of Wendell, but I think some of the
You
things.
watched more than I did then too. You still do now, but you watched a lot more than I did then.
Yeah,
Like
but
that's when I was getting into it.
right, but I'm saying like now the way I've adjusted my philosophy since then, I think I would have been lower on Vendel than I was back then, and that would have been wrong actually. So it is interesting that even like as we make adjustments to our philosophy to supposedly get better, there's always some losses you also have on the way. Some things that you lose with more
The
experience.
only, yeah, I think the only archetype of guy that I feel the same about now that I did 3-4 years ago is the Vassell type. Like, I will always be into that guy. Otto Porter, Mikhail, Vassell, Devin Vassell, that whatever that archetype is, I'm always going to be into that guy.
Like a
It
really
doesn't matter.
good versatile defensive wing who's maybe not the
Tayshaun
best
Prince.
super great self creator or anything like not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you need those guys. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree.
if that's your fifth guy, you're going to be good.
That's true. Yeah,
Danny
there's
Green
only
has made his
one
entire
ball,
career.
as the saying goes.
Danny Green has made an entire career off of that.
Yeah,
He's been a great player.
if you just
Until
look
this
at
year.
value wise, Danny Green is like one of the maybe three best shooting guards of the past decade or something like that. Maybe
Mhm.
five or some shit like that.
Giannis is going to play tonight. Interesting.
But yeah, I think just to finish up, well, let me just say real quick. I think for me, the things maybe I learned from Ramsey and Najee in particular. With Ramsey, I don't think there's like a big thing that comes directly from him, but more so just continuing on my beard magic theory and how beard just makes everybody look amazing. And maybe part of the reason, at least I'll say that I was a little high on Culver, as was much talked about on Twitter today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's and even Zaire Smith to some extent. I mean, I still like those guys as prospects, and I think Ramsey and Terrence Shannon are good prospects to a degree as well. But I do think, in general, Beard does have some, magic, uh,
Yeah.
or just his coaching and his ability to,
Which
utilize
is why it would
guys.
have been really fun if Kuminga had gone there. Because it'd be like,
Oh yeah,
what could he have made that guy into?
yeah, that would
I
be
can't even
interesting.
imagine. That's the only place I wanted him to go that wasn't the G League. So good for him. He made the right choice probably.
Yeah, and then with Najee, I touched on this a little earlier, but I think I kind of going into this season, I started to undervalue big man offense outside of just shooting and passing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely the most important things from an offensive standpoint in general and for big men. But I do think like the ability to make some of those shorter range shots and having craft as a finisher that Najee does, and having physical. Physicality and strength and aggression around the rim as a finisher, and some of the things Najee is able to do to draw contact and stuff like that, and the ability to hit those short range jumpers, may have said, stuff like that. I do think it's not totally valueless, even though I don't think it's one of the best skills to have necessarily, but it's still, if you're good enough in it and you know how to utilize it well and stuff like that, it's something that I kind of going into the year I started to place less and less value at. But going back, I probably shouldn't do that, and that wasn't smart. Like guys, again, like Sabonis, for example, maybe not a great interior defender as a big man or anything like that, but still a valuable player nevertheless. And or John Collins, for example, also. Yeah, I
John
think.
Collins is a good example.
Yeah, and Najee as well. I think that's maybe where my evaluation of him fell short going into the year. But yeah, yeah, I think that's what I'll just. The last thing I know you wanted to talk about Flynn and just the guards and the class in general, like maybe some of the lower guards, not necessarily like the lotto type guys. I'm presuming, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, like smaller guards. I think that's becoming more like we're talking about with teams having multiple ball handlers on the floor. That's really kind of opened up. Because remember Tyler Ulis? I mean, he wasn't very good, but Tyler Ulis was a flop. I think that kind of guy would do better now.
I mean, he was good. He was just freaking tiny.
Yeah, but like Chris Clemens seems like he's like clawed down a roster spot. Got like Jordan McLaughlin and Chioza are probably going to be on teams next year.
Yeah,
and they maybe wouldn't have 4 or 5 years ago. And so there's just a lot of guys in this class that are like that, like Cassius, Winston, Flynn. Even Manny is bigger, but Manny kind of plays like that a lot of ways.
Who?
He's kind of Manny is kind of a different version of that. Like he's stronger and bigger, but I think in the NBA he's going to have to rely on a lot of that craft stuff too. Tyrell Terry, tiny.
Payne Pritchard.
Yeah. Not Trey. Trey Jones is bigger. Just looking at my guard list here. Yeah, like a Cassius.
Marcus Howard.
Yeah, if he makes it, yeah.
Yeah. Dotson, Miles Powell. I mean, I don't know if Dotson is.
I don't really have Miles Powell as that, but Dotson's not big. Quickly's not a very big guard. Trent Forrest is larger. He doesn't count. Like there's a lot of those guys. Vital, Saban Lee. I don't know if he's really going to be a real prospect, but Saban is like 170 pounds.
He seems bigger to me, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess it depends.
There's just a lot of smaller. There's more of those, and like Jared Butler, if he'd stayed in, was one. McKinley Wright was one if he'd stayed in.
McKinley Wright definitely is a smaller guy, yeah.
Crutcher for next year. Crutcher's tiny. There's a lot of those guys, and like I feel like there's more of an opportunity for them now, but they're not all going to be good. Like, we know that. It's not going to happen. So it's trying to figure out like how to, even just statistically, like how to pick those guys out. Because like Cassius is a good one because Cassius is not a prolific scorer, but what Cassius is, if you look at his numbers, is one of the best shooters like who's ever lived. Like his touch is
really
like,
good.
It's incredible, and that's if he becomes a good NBA player, that's how it's going to happen. Like Monty Morris became a good NBA player because he's the best decision maker in the world. Like he doesn't make bad decisions. He's the king of not fucking up, as I call him. That'll get you. I mean, Raul Neto's been in the NBA for 5 years now, just by not making mistakes. So I think that's the thing with Malachi that sticks out is he was such a good finisher this year, and it's hard to see. Like you have to watch him to really figure out why. And it's just that he's a good dribbler who just takes the first layup he gets.
He's fairly strong and he has some craft. But yeah, he's. I think he has fairly good, like you said, kind of shot selection. I suppose it would be for finishing. I don't.
Aggression, maybe.
Yeah.
Like some guys will over dribble and like try to find. Like I like Isaiah Joe a lot. Isaiah Joe will miss layups he could take. He had a good percentage, but he didn't take a lot. But like Kobe White does that all the time. If he even wants to get layups, he sometimes prefers to pull up, taking a weird 16-footer. But it worked for him in the last half of the year, so I'm not going to criticize it yet. I think a guy like Joel Ayayi doesn't really, although I don't know. I want to see what he does as like the full-time guy.
Joel Ayayi, he's not very physical. He avoids contact a lot, I feel like.
I'm just looking at my list of like.
Ayayi is bigger though than some of these guys, taller, longer.
I'm just thinking of guards in general who don't take, who over dribble sometimes, and like Malachi does not do that. I don't think he's ever done that in his life. He will take. I mean, Riller is the ultimate example, but Riller is like a different level of finisher. He doesn't count. He's a great athlete.
See, Flynn maybe doesn't over dribble, but sometimes he'll pick up his dribble too early. I feel like, and then kind of not know what to do. And
he commits. I think that's the word I'm looking for. He will commit to if he's planning on scoring at the rim, he will commit to it. He shot 68% at the rim.
Yeah.
For a guy with one dunk, like it's really good.
That is pretty good.
I mean, it's not like Mason, but again, Mason's huge. Mason's a giant.
I wonder what his rate was though in the half court.
Overall rate was like over 20%. But he's a 6'1" guy. You don't expect him to take that many shots at the rim. And man, he's a good shooter, so that helps. 33, almost 34 free throw rate for Malachi. That's pretty good for a small guard.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. 30 plus is pretty solid. Pretty good for guards.
Yeah, I think Tyrell Terry has that problem where he's not super decisive in the paint. Yeah. He's a good finisher. He has craft. But if Tyrell works out, it's because he's a great standstill shooter. That's I think that's what I'm getting at. Like McLaughlin's a great decision maker. Chris Chioza is really good at defense and is a very good passer. And I think there's more opportunities for these littler guards to make it just by having one or two skills. And I think we got to get better at identifying those skills.
Do you think
It's a market
Flynn's?
efficiency we need to catch up on.
Do you think Flynn's will be able to get to the rim and finish at the rim at the same level in the NBA?
That's the question. And I think because he's such a pick and roll heavy guard, I think maybe. I think if he's gonna get on bigs, he's gonna be able to get around them a lot. Some bigs, but he's gonna have to be pick and roll. He's gonna have to run pick and rolls and either shoot or make good passes and make if he succeeds, he's gonna be a high usage bench guard. And that's a weird that's not a guy who really existed a few years ago, that height. But now because things have kind of blossomed out, it's there's just more. There's a greater variety of small guards. It used to be if you were a small guard, you were Nate Robinson, you were a scorer. That was the only. And Chris Paul, but Chris Paul doesn't. You can't count Chris Paul in any of this stuff. He's a completely different player than anyone. But who else am I thinking of? I guess Boykins, but Boykins was different. Boykins was a freak. But you were either you were a scorer like Nate, or you were a floor general. You were Andre Miller. You were Lindsey Hunter. What's his name? Anthony Carter. Although he was big, but he was still not very tall. And there's just a lot of guys now who have very different skill sets, and they're making it. When I think I don't think any of us would have predicted Jordan McLaughlin would be a rotation player in the NBA, but he is. It's not a very very good team, but he played well for them this year.
Yeah,
For Minnesota, he was good.
that's true. That's a good point. McLaughlin, what I remember about him in USC that stood out is his ability to run pick and roll. USC is a
Yeah,
very pick and roll heavy system that kind of allows their point guard a lot of dribbling around and kind of finding their way in the half court. McLaughlin did a pretty good job of that, especially in his latter seasons. He's got older, and I think he's been able to translate that in the kind of backup role in the NBA. The other question I think with guys like that, like McLaughlin, is do you want to use a draft pick on a guy like that,
that's I think what I'm getting at. Yeah.
yeah, or would you
It's
rather just even failed draft pick probably, but at least have some tiny chance at more upside at a player?
I was talking about that with Partnow once. It was do you really want to use draft picks on backup point guards?
Right.
And I'm I don't know if you want to lose a lot of them, but I think you do need to do it once in a while now because so many teams have so many guards. And I think if you're a bad team, or if you're a team like Philly who just doesn't have guards, you need to get one of those guys. You need somebody cost controlled that you can have for 3 or 4 years at least, not be bad. Because not being able to run multiple guard sets, or with Philly, their problem is that they do that, but then one of the guards is Josh Richardson, and Josh just can't be a guard. We know that. We figured that out now. He can't run offense like that. So right now with Ben out, Shake Milton is their only guard really, and it's that's not going to be good in the playoffs. I love Shake. Shake can't get to the rim.
Right.
So who else? Who's your other guard? And then you look at Indiana probably going to be better than them, or even Miami needs more guards, but Miami's weird because Bam and Jimmy Butler can function as guards sometimes. They don't really count. Indiana's got Aaron Holiday. It's a good example of he's not great, but Aaron Holiday's fine. He will play playoff minutes.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
1,000 points in a game. He'll probably play. I think we used to the adage in the NBA for a long time now has been getting wings, and you still need them, obviously. But I do think there is a market for just getting good ball handlers at any size.
Yeah, I think
just getting them out there.
Speed. I think size was a little bit overrated, and it still is even to some extent in the NBA, but it's getting a little bit less so. And I think teams are realizing the importance of mobility and skill, and speed, stuff like that. That's regardless, almost not completely regardless, but almost regardless of size.
Mm-hmm. And, so I want to see how many of these guys. It's gonna be weird this year with no summer league and probably not much of a preseason. it's going to be kind of a shame. There's going to be several guys who just don't get offers that should have. But and then there's guys like Charles Matthews who need to get offers. Please give him an offer. Why is he not on the team? He's got to be healthy by now.
Yeah, you'd think, but who knows?
Let my man's defend people. Poor guy. I feel so bad about that because the only reason he got hurt was because he was doing so well in the workouts. He was kicking everybody's ass. He kept doing workouts and then he got hurt.
Yeah, that sounds right. Actually, yeah, I think that is true. Huh? That is what happened.
Yeah.
Um.
Another example of a guy like Javon Carter. I don't think would have been in the NBA 5-6 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Javon Carter or like Jalen Brunson is having a decent role with Dallas and guys like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Carter is an especially good example since Brunson was like an amazing offensive player, and Carter more of a defensive guy. So like defensive guards who are almost not one-way defenders, but derive much of their value from defense. Probably haven't always gotten the chance they deserve in the past, like a Briante Weber. I remember.
That's what I was thinking.
Or like a Gary Payton the second.
Burrell.
Yeah, Gary Payton the second, and so forth.
Although Gary Payton he's still in the league. Give him credit.
He's playing in the league now. I don't know. He is.
I think he's still on the Wizards.
Oh, okay.
Let me check.
Oh, good for him.
Yes, still on the Wizards.
What about Justin Robinson?
Eventually, it will happen. He got hurt. Like it's. But yeah, like Chioza, I bet will be in the NBA next year. I don't see why he wouldn't. Was the guy from Memphis? Didn't he have a good game today? Jeremiah Martin? I think he did.
Yeah, I remember Martin had some interesting stats.
He's pretty small too. He's not very big either.
Never really bought him too much on film, but he had some things like toughness and strength.
24 points, good for him. He's a G. Those guys used to be. You used to go to the G League and find 40 of those guys at any given point, and now they're starting to make it a little more. They're sticking, and I'm happy. I
wonder how true that is. Also, I wonder if we compare like the NBA right now to 5 years ago, for example. Like, what is the percentage of players? I don't know, 6'2" and under, or whatever. Or how would you define the criteria there?
There's over 100 now, and I maybe it's just anecdotal. Maybe I'm just imagining that, but it feels like there's more now than there were.
I do agree with you also. But again, it is anecdotal. Like, we don't know that for a fact. But yeah.
Definitely there's more of those guys playing together than there was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have seen a lineup with Mills and
right.
At the same time. Or the Bulls ran Shaq Harrison and Archie Diacono. Shaq Harrison to the 3 and then Archie Diacono together a lot.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case. Do you think that's where it's coming from mostly? Just two guard type or two ball handler type lineups, or do you think it's like some other reason? Like there's just as backups, there more teams are looking for those skill sets in general more.
It may just be more of those guys too. I don't know. But there's always.
Oh, like you think the talent pool has more of those types of players right now?
There's always every year. There's always like 15 or 20 like 6'1" college guards who are good college players who don't get a shot in the NBA though. So
that's my opinion. Is it's always been like that, but just a matter of is the NBA like
I think they're identifying the kind of guy they want more.
What do you mean?
Like, I think the NBA is finding like teams want specific guys more than they did then. Like because they're looking for extra ball handlers. They're targeting those guys more than they were. They're looking at them more.
Oh, you think
and the two-way contract I think helps a lot too because there's more of a need for them.
A lot of those guys are perceived as like two-way type of players.
Yeah, Jared Harper probably would not have been before the two-way contract. Probably would never have gotten an NBA look, not a serious one. And he's not even done good yet. I think he will be. That's one of my takes. Is I think Jared's going to be. There's anyone in the NBA who's going to be Devontae Graham next year or the year after, it's going to be Jared.
I definitely think the success of guys like Steph and Damian Lillard has gotten guys that are now like maybe amazing athletes or like physically like specimens like young Russell Westbrook and Derrick Rose and guys like that, but are just more like skilled, crafty guys that have some like shooting upside usually, and are pretty good shooters and stuff. Like a guy like Cassius Winston or Peyton Pritchard probably wouldn't be considered possible first round picks maybe like 6-7 years ago or something.
Yeah, they would have in the 90s because they were both seniors.
Yeah, yeah. In the '90s, you're right, because in the '90s, teams like people had a
Bobby
weird
Early.
like the evaluation was pretty simplistic. Like if you had a lot of points per game, teams were pretty like, oh, that's one of the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
guys. Yeah. But yeah, that's
It's one
definitely
of
an
the things I
interesting.
think I'm going to start really tracking. It's just like looking at how many of these guys get two-way contracts and how many get like real shots.
What do you mean?
Uh, I'm going to start paying more attention. Like that's one of the things this year that I was just looking at the numbers. I'm going to start tracking those guys and seeing how many of them get like real NBA shots compared to even like last year. Kemba's a good example too, but Kemba was like he was always going to get drafted high. He doesn't really count.
Yeah, Kemba is like, yeah, like the '90s philosophy of, he was in a championship team and scored a bunch of points. He's a top five guy.
It turned out to be a good pick.
Oh yeah, no, I liked him too, but I'm just saying that's like in the '90s he would have been beloved too. But yeah,
You would go back. It's fun to go back and look at like the older drafts they have them on YouTube, and there was the one. It was like, who's the best player in the draft? It was I can't remember who the first pick was, but it was like, what about Mike Bibby? He could be a star. It's like, well,
yeah, Michael Candy, Mike Bibby. Who was the third pick in that draft? Can't remember now. Whatever. I think
Rafe. It was Rafe the French.
was he
I
the?
just
I
looked
think
it
he
up.
was the fourth pick in whatever draft he was in, and I
He
think
was third. No, he was the third pick. Rafe LaFrance was third.
oh okay,
Jameson, then Vince Carter.
right, and then Tractor Trailer probably was
Back to
sixth.
Trailer.
Yeah,
White Chocolate, Larry Hughes, Dirk, Paul Pierce. That's a top 10. That's
yeah,
a weird top 10.
yeah. Some good players in there.
Michael Dickerson was in that draft.
Yeah, he was a good
Michael
player
Dickerson.
before he got really bad injury. He now
Mm-hmm.
runs a pretty successful, well, relatively successful AU club.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Richard was in there too. Of course he was. I know that. Love Richard.
Rashard was second round pick. But yeah, we're taking people's time now. Yeah, I think yeah, that is an interesting point though about two guard lineups. That's something I was looking at the other day as well, just because I was thinking about five out teams and the difficulty some of like the Bucks, for example, who are overall probably the best defense in the NBA, but have had some difficulty with teams like the Rockets and the Mavs. I was looking at how teams may go about, defending those types of teams, and the two clubs that had, or the lineups rather, that had the most success with that, as I mentioned, were like the three guard lineup for the Thunder and the lineup with multiple guards for the Spurs off the bench with like Patty Mills and Derek White and like Rudy Gay at center even in certain points. So yeah, that is an interesting thought also to go with that. How there's been more of these shorter guards playing maybe at the two almost, and yeah, how maybe more of them will be given opportunity since there seems to be so many of them among top prospects coming in. But yeah, I think that's about
Good news for
all.
Sharif. It's good news for Sharif Cooper
Oh yeah, maybe yeah, yeah, perhaps he's
and
definitely in
Curbelo. Of course, I had that to mention my man Curbelo.
Kerbal, yeah.
I
Uh,
love him.
yeah, that's the Illinois. They're gonna have another team with like four guards next year, probably starting.
Yeah,
Um,
Trent Frazier will start.
yeah, the Sun is back, and Corbella will
Miller
yeah,
Miller might start too. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I
that's
think
not a
that
new thing in college. That's happened in college forever. But it's just, I think it's a thing that
yeah,
you see a lot of times. I remember there's been a lot of people making fun. You'd make fun of a team that like maybe a smaller team that made the Elite Eight with like their starting lineup was like forward, guard, 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 and people would make fun of them. And it's like it's actually working. Like it's the way basketball. Like when those Northern Iowa teams would make runs and their tallest guy would be like 6'8".
yeah. To me,
And so yeah,
Jay
they
Wright
just
was kind of the
you
pioneer.
can't guard them. You can't guard them like if you're playing two 6'10" guys and like a 6'9" guy.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, getting out in the perimeter, they're gonna get a lot of open jumpers, and they're unless they're missing a bunch of open jumpers, they're gonna have a lot of success there. Yeah, I feel like Jay Wright kind of pioneered that with that team with
Yes,
Alan Ray and Foy and Mike Nardi and so forth.
I love that team.
Yeah,
That was a great team.
yeah. Uh, Also, what I liked about Wright is he was very like open to switching like 6 foot guys on centers inside and not really
Mhm.
being too worried about it, and kind of giving his small guards the confidence to try to defend bigger guys, which has actually been not a huge deal as some people may think. But yeah, uh, I think that's about it.
Yeah,
We've covered everything. Thank you for speaking with me, Brian. I appreciate it. And
no, no,
yeah, I'll edit this up a little bit and put it up on YouTube. Yeah. Anything you wanna, I don't know, plug or anything like that?
My Patreon, but I think anyone who watches this is probably going to be already be on it.
Yeah.
I haven't written anything at Uprocks for like 2 months, but I'm probably going to do a Poku thing here soon. I shouldn't be saying that out loud, I guess, but whatever.
Nice. Nice.
Jax didn't want to do one, so.
Cool. Well, all right, man. Have a good one.
Yep.
Talk to you. Yeah. Thanks for coming out, man. Later.
Yep, hour 13 is pretty good.